If you had 10,000 saved in the bank at the start of the last decade, inflation quietly stole roughly 3,000 of its buying power while the number on the screen went up. Month after month, your balance looked healthier, but what it could actually buy shrank. That is the hidden cost nobody warned you about. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how that happened to your savings, and you will walk away with a simple plan to repair the damage and build an inflation shield so it never happens again. Let me show you through Harry. Harry is 34. He works as a support lead in a busy call center. After taxes and deductions, he brings home $3,119 every month. He did what everyone told him was smart. Since his early 20s, he pushed money into a savings account. No crypto, no day trading, no wild bets, just careful, boring saving. Over 11 years, through overtime shifts and skipped holidays, he built that balance to $31,517. On paper, it looked like security. Then, one afternoon, he was in the grocery aisle, holding a carton of eggs. He remembered paying just over $2 a few years earlier. The same carton now sat near $6. His rent renewal email showed another increase. His car insurance went up. Nothing dramatic in any single month, just a slow tightening. So he did something he had never done before. He pulled out old bank statements and old receipts from a folder he kept in a shoebox. Rent from 8 years ago. Groceries from 5 years ago. Gas from 3 years ago. When he lined them up, the pattern was brutal. Rent was up almost half. The simple basket he bought every week, bread, eggs, milk, rice, coffee, had climbed by about a third. His savings account? Over most of that stretch, it had paid interest so tiny the bank rounded it. Some months he earned less than $2. The money number grew. The life it could buy shrank. That is how inflation destroys savings. Not with one big crash, but with 1,000 quiet cuts. If you have ever felt like you are doing everything right and somehow still standing still, that is the feeling Harry had at his kitchen table that night. He thought he had a savings problem. What he really had was a storage problem. Around this time, a friend handed him a copy of Your Money or Your Life by Vicki Robin. One line stuck in his head. It said that every dollar is a piece of your life energy. If you let it sit where it slowly dies, you are letting little pieces of your life fade away. A few weeks later, he picked up The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. The stories in that book hit him with another idea. Playing it too safe with money can be its own kind of risk, especially over decades. Those two ideas snapped together. The real danger was not losing money in some dramatic crash. The real danger was watching it quietly melt while he felt proud of being careful. So, Harry decided to run an experiment for 12 months. He would keep saving, but he would change where and how he stored that savings, so inflation had less power over it. He called it his inflation repair year. First, he needed to see the leak clearly. On the first Sunday night of each month at 8:07 p.m., he sat at his small kitchen table with a notebook. At the top of the page, he wrote 4 prices: his rent, a full cart of groceries for the week, a tank of gas, his internet bill. 4 numbers that together told the story of his everyday life. He pulled the latest statements and wrote the exact amounts down to the cents. Then he dug out old emails and receipts when he had them, even if they were messy. 3 years back, 5 years back, sometimes more. Looking at those pages, he saw something that will sound familiar. Prices almost never went down. They only stepped up. The steps were uneven. A big jump one year, a smaller one the next, then another big jump, but the staircase always climbed. On average, his personal cost of living had risen around 3 to 4% a year. Now look at his savings account. For several years in the middle of that period, his bank paid almost nothing. Later, it paid a little more, then less again. Across the whole decade, his average return sat well below his personal inflation rate. Imagine bailing water into a bucket that has a tiny hole near the bottom. You can feel the bucket getting heavier, but a little water is always leaking out. That was Harry's savings. So he set one clear goal for his inflation repair year. Keep enough cash safe for short-term needs, but move everything else into an inflation shield designed to grow faster than prices over the long run. Not a complicated portfolio, not some trading strategy, just a different home for money that did not need to sit in pure cash. Step 1 was deciding how much cash he actually needed. Looking over 12 months of spending, he saw that his true must-pay bills, the ones that keep the lights on, came to about $2,170 each month. Rent, basic groceries, transport, essential insurance. He decided he wanted 4 months and a bit of that locked in cash. He chose a very specific number that felt like breathing room, $9,123. That was his safety bucket. If his car died, if he lost his job, if a medical bill showed up, that bucket would handle the shock. It sat in a separate savings account he did not touch. Everything above that number turned into the raw material for his inflation shield. On that first night, his total savings were $31,517. Subtract the safety bucket. That left $22,394 as fuel for the shield. Now he had to pick where to store it. In The Simple Path to Wealth, J.L. Collins talks about the idea of owning a slice of many productive companies through a broad stock index, letting their profits grow faster than inflation over long stretches. Harry did not want to become an expert stock picker. He wanted a simple way to hitch his savings to that long-term growth. So he opened a low-cost investing account that let him buy a broad market fund with one tap. No fancy charts, just a simple option that owned tiny pieces of thousands of companies. Here is the important part. He did not throw all $22,000 into the market on day one. That would have felt terrifying. Instead, he built a staircase. On the second Tuesday of every month, at 9:08 p.m., he sat down for what he called his inflation evening. He checked his 4 prices, updated his notebook, then moved a fixed slice of that extra cash into his inflation shield fund. Month 1. He moved $1,179. Nothing magical about that number. It was a little more than half his monthly take-home, enough to feel serious but not reckless. Month 2, another $1,179. Month 3, again. After 3 months, his invested balance sat at $3,537. His safety bucket stayed at $9,123. His old savings account balance dropped, but now that money had a job beyond just sitting. By month 6, after 6 of those transfers, his inflation shield had climbed to $7,174. During that same stretch, prices kept creeping. Groceries up a bit, gas up, then down, then up higher. His notebook pages looked uglier each month. But something else was happening. The fund he had bought did not move in a straight line. Some weeks it fell, some weeks it jumped. Over 6 months, despite the bumps, it sat higher than the sum of his deposits. The key was not guessing every move. The key was what J.L. Collins and Morgan Housel both keep pointing to in their books. Wealth grows when money spends more time in productive assets than in idle cash, and when you keep adding during the boring, uncomfortable months. Here is where the big reveal came for Harry, around month 8. One Sunday, he added up 2 numbers. First, he took his old savings pattern and pretended he had never changed. Just kept everything in the same account, earning the tiny average rate the bank had paid him over the last few years. Second, he looked at his real life, the safety bucket still untouched. The inflation shield with 8 months of deposits and the actual balance on the screen that day. The difference between those 2 paths was $1,489. Same Harry, same job, same total money saved from his paychecks. The only change was where that money slept at night. That $1,489 was not lottery money. It was the gap between letting inflation slowly chew on everything and putting part of his savings somewhere built to grow faster than prices over time. That is the heart of how you fix inflation damage. You stop asking, how much do I have in savings? You start asking, how much real life can this money still buy? Central banks quietly target positive inflation on purpose. That means over decades, prices are supposed to climb. Historic returns from broad stock markets, even with crashes, have beaten that by several points a year over long stretches. Bonds and other assets add different flavors of protection. When you leave long-term savings in pure cash, you are choosing to fall behind that gap every single year. Harry's experiment turned into a permanent system because it did 3 things for him. It respected his fear. He still had $9,123 sitting in pure cash. That number helped him sleep. It attacked the leak. Every month, more of his surplus shifted into the inflation shield, aiming to ride long-term growth instead of absorb long-term damage. And it made inflation visible. Those notebook pages kept him honest. When his grocery cart jumped again, he did not just complain. He knew exactly why his shield needed to stay funded. So how do you copy this in your own life without turning into an economist? You start the same way Harry did, with one uncomfortable evening. Pick a night this week. Sit down with your bank app open and a small notebook or note on your phone. Write down 4 or 5 prices that define your real life, your rent or mortgage, a full cart of food, a tank of gas or a monthly transit pass, your main utility bill. Then search your email and old statements for those same bills a few years back. If you can find numbers from 5 years ago, even better. Look at the difference, not roughly, exactly. Let that sting for a moment. Next, calculate your true must-pay monthly cost of living, not the extras. Just the bills that keep you alive and housed, round nothing. Write the full number. Ask yourself how many months of that number you need in pure cash to sleep at night. Harry picked a bit over 4. Your answer might be 3, it might be 6. But pick a number. It has to feel slightly uncomfortable, not perfect. Multiply those two. That is your safety bucket target. Anything above that becomes fuel for your own inflation shield. You do not need a PhD portfolio. For most people, a simple low-cost index fund or a mix of a stock index and a bond index in a basic investing account is enough. The important part is that this money is no longer pretending to be safe while silently rotting. Then choose your version of Harry's inflation evening. Select one day each month that you can actually stick to. Maybe it is the third Wednesday at 9:02 p.m. after the kids are in bed. Maybe it is the first Monday morning before work. On that same day every month, you will do 3 things. Update your small list of key prices. Check that your safety bucket still sits at or above your chosen number. Move a fixed amount, even a small one, from extra cash into your inflation shield. If you are starting small, that fixed amount might be $53. For Harry, after his first year, it became $237. The amount matters far less than the rhythm. 12 months from now, 2 things will be true if you follow through. First, your notebook will show you exactly how much the world has raised the price of your life. Second, you will not be standing there empty-handed. You will already have built a shield designed to fight back for you while you sleep. In Your Money or Your Life, Vicki Robin talks about reaching a point where your money works, so your life energy does not have to. Harry laughs when he thinks about that now. His old savings account was not working for him. It was barely standing still. Today, a few years after that first inflation repair year, his safety bucket still sits near $10,000. His inflation shield, built slowly and steadily, has grown to $43,911. If inflation keeps nibbling at his groceries and rent, it is not just chewing on his savings anymore. It is wrestling with a living, growing shield. You may not have Harry's income. You may have more obligations or less room in your budget, but the core move is the same. Stop letting inflation be an invisible tax on money that thinks it is safe. Decide your safety bucket. Build an inflation shield for everything beyond it. Make rising prices visible with a simple monthly ritual. Tonight, before you fall asleep, pick the night and the time for your first inflation evening. Write it down. That small decision is